Hi everybody, and welcome to my office. My apologies if you can hear traffic or people in the background, but I was way too lazy to record anything over the weekend, and so now I am recording this video over my lunch break. So today I wanted to do my wrap-up video for Read-O-Rama Round 6, which took place last week. If you watch my TBR video, you'll know that I set out to read 7 books, which was one of the challenges for Read-O-Rama Round 6, and I have to say that I only got to 5 books total. About day 5 of the 7-day event, I kind of reached my burnout level and just couldn't bring myself to read the final 2 novels I had on my list. Because I wanted to read some nonfiction and do some other things, because in those 5 days I'd spent every spare moment reading. Excuse me while I take a drink of some coffee. Anyway, let's dive in and look at the books that I was able to complete in those 5 days. So I started out the week with my selection for Read a Book with Irish Elements, and for that I read Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. This tells the story of an orphaned Irish immigrant who comes over during the time of the Irish potato famine, and he meets another orphan named John Cole, and we are taken on the journey of Thomas's life from that time of meeting through the contemporary time in which he is narrating this story. The way the story is told in a kind of stream of consciousness narrative from Thomas, who is narrating the events of his life, this really feels like a life laid bare. Although it's a very short volume, coming in under 300 pages, the scale of Thomas's life feels really epic. I don't want to give too much away about the story, but I can say that Thomas and John end up having a relationship, and I was surprised at just how mundane and domestic this relationship felt, especially for the time period. And another point in that was kind of the exploration of gender fluidity in the American frontier and how normal that seemed. It was surprising to see the acceptance of the gender fluid behavior of Thomas in a time that modern readers, and myself included, might think would be a lot more hostile towards what it considered to be aberrant behavior. This is actually something that Sebastian Barry addresses in an interview that he did with the Guardian's book podcast. I highly recommend you listen to that. It was an excellent interview, and I'll leave the link in the description box below. Overall, this was a fantastic book, and I would highly recommend that everybody check it out. The next book that I read for Read-O-Rama was For Today I Am a Boy by Kim Fu, and this was read for the category of reading a book that has R.A.M.A. in the title or the author name. I won't go into the synopsis of this book. I did give that in the TBR video, and if you'd like to listen to that, you can go back. This was another book that I enjoyed, but it was a very tough story to read. The main character, Peter, led a life, at least in the time period that's covered in the book, of what I consider to be fairly profound isolation. This story really explores deeply the concept of personal identity, and it really explores how our comfort in our own skin really is impacted by the vocabulary we have available to us to express what we feel on the inside. This book was also particularly disturbing for me in how closely the family dynamics in Peter's family were tied to those that I've experienced in my own family. Overall, it was an emotional but very good read, and I would recommend that if you're interested in gender identity and personal identity and kind of psychological explorations of that in novel form that you check out for Today I Am a Boy. So the third category that I read for in Read-O-Rama was to start a series. For this category, I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shayna McGuire. So I enjoyed my time with this book, although maybe not as much as I had expected to. I will say that I'm a sucker for world building, and Shayna McGuire did a really good job at world building, and she has quite a lot of material to work for because the boarding school in which this story takes place is filled with children who have been kind of ousted from magical realms that they traveled to and are now kind of having to make their way in our reality. And so you get to both explore their interactions in this realm, but you also have the possibility of exploring the realms that they had visited on their journeys. This was really interesting to me, and I enjoyed that aspect of the book. At its core, the book is a young adult Agatha Christie novel. It's a kind of a whodunit murder mystery in which, you know, the killer is somewhere in the boarding school, and the point is to try to figure out who the killer is. So that was kind of fun and interesting, if not super original. So besides world building, the other part of this book that I really liked and would want to support and see more of is the wide range of gender and sexual minority representation that exists in this book. And not only, you know, gay and lesbian relationships or feelings, but those gender and sexual minorities that typically will get left out of the conversation, which include bisexuality and asexuality. So that was really awesome to see. Overall, if you're looking for kind of a fun YA mystery novel to read that's kind of set in a fantasy setting, I would highly encourage you to read Every Heart a Doorway. It was an enjoyable read. So the fourth book that I read in Read-O-Rama was The Pride of Baghdad, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Nico Hirokon. I don't really know how to say his last name. I'm sorry. This I read for the category of Read a Book Blind, and unsurprisingly, it was the book that I ended up reading that I enjoyed the least. So this book, because I hadn't read anything about it beforehand, I can give you a little synopsis now, is a fictionalized telling of a real event in which a pride of lions escaped from the Baghdad Zoo during an American bombing of the city back in 2003 during the Afghan War. The story itself is heart-wrenching, and the art is absolutely wonderful. That was something that kept me reading. It was also kind of interesting to see the perspective of lions when it came to looking at human events. So those were kind of the good points. Unfortunately, I didn't feel like Brian K. Vaughan did a really good job of writing a standalone graphic novel. It really felt like something that could have been condensed to, you know, a 12-page comic. The depth at which he made his political commentary and social commentary was very shallow, and this was really kind of disappointing to me. So overall, I would say if you're interested in the pretty art, read the book, but otherwise leave it. And in a complete 180 from Pride of Baghdad, the last book that I managed to finish during the readathon was The 100 Nights of Hero by Isabel Greenberg. And this graphic novel was absolutely fantastic. This is how you do social commentary, really, in a graphic novel form. So I got a lot wrong when I was describing this book in the TBR, but I did get one thing right. One of the main characters' names is Cherry, and my name is Chad, and so it met the criteria of read a book where the character's initial is shared with you as a reader. That was a convoluted way of saying that, but there you have it. Kind of the shell of the story in the 100 Nights of Hero is that there is a woman named Cherry who is married to maybe a lord, and unbeknownst to him, she's in love with her maid named Hero, and Cherry's husband ends up making this deal with this other slimy male character named Manfred. I think that was Manfred. They're Manfred and Jerome, and I can't remember which one was the husband and which one was the slimy guy. But anyway, the bet was that Manfred would get to keep both Cherry and Jerome's castle if he could seduce Cherry in 100 nights. But Hero and Cherry conspire to try to save Cherry from this fate, and Hero ends up telling stories every night before Manfred gets the opportunity to seduce Cherry in any sort of fashion. Not that he ever had a chance. Kind of the shell of the story and the thread that runs throughout is really a feminist manifesto, and kind of interwoven in the stories that Hero is telling are morality tales. Overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I would encourage everybody to read it. The art style was very interesting. It was kind of minimal, almost folk arty. It was not super detailed or lushly colored like most of the graphic novels and comics that are contemporary. It really kind of fit the fairy tale, morality tale structure of the narrative. Overall, excellent book. Everyone should read it. So those are the 5 books that I got to finish during round 6 of Read-O-Rama. And the 2 books that I didn't get to were History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera and Lord of Ravens by Amelia Faulkner. And by an odd turn of events / my inability to plan well, I am currently reading Lord of Ravens by Amelia Faulkner because the review for that book, which I got through the Goodreads Romance Group's Don't Buy My Love program, is due this Sunday. And so that means that my Borrow-a-thon reading is currently a little bit on hold. Yes, I am participating in Borrow-a-thon. If you would like to find out what I plan on reading for Borrow-a-thon, you can check out the TBR that's on my blog. I'll leave a link in the description. Unfortunately, as I said this past weekend, I was too lazy to make videos, and so my TBR for Borrow-a-thon was only in written form over on my blog. I am planning on writing up full reviews of at least 4 of these books. I may or may not write up a full review of Pride of Baghdad, but when I finish them, you'll be able to find them both on my blog and on my Goodreads profile. So feel free to either follow my blog or add me on Goodreads or both. If you participated in round 6 of Read-O-Rama, I'd really like to find out what you read, so leave me some information in a comment below, a link to your video, a link to your blog post, or just your thoughts on what you read right in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.